Howdy again everyone, my name is Gabby. For a while now, the Gas Passer and the Neon Annihilator were the two items in Pyro's arsenal that were slightly underwhelming. However, after the July 18th, 2024 summer update patch, both of them are now undeniably great when used together. Having seriously tried running this combo full time for a few months, I can guarantee that not only is it viable, it aids you greatly in some situations where you would be out of luck with other loadouts. So, in this video I will tell you all about the LandShark combo, which difficulties you may run into when using it, and how you can still perform well with it. Now first, let's briefly refresh your memory on how the Gas Passer works, as many of you probably don't remember what it does. I don't doubt one of them still collects dust in your inventory from all the way back in 2017. The Gas Passer, or Petrol Deployer, is a rechargeable, throwable gas canister that doesn't start full when you spawn in like other rechargeable items. Instead, you have to deal 750 damage or you need to wait 60 seconds to fill it. Quite conveniently, 1 minute is exactly how long setup time usually takes in some game modes, excluding Koth, 5CP, and CTF. Once charged, the Gas Passer can be thrown, inflicting a unique debuff on all coated enemies, where on hit, they will be ignited as soon as they take any damage. The keyword here is any, as it doesn't have to come from weapons necessarily. The ignition effect triggers when enemies take fall damage, self-damage from explosive weapons, and even self-damage from jumper weapons, which, as their stats suggest, deal 0 damage. And the other thing that the Gas Passer does is... oh wait, that's it? It doesn't do anything else? Okay, it's not really a secret to anybody who's played this game that this weapon is super underwhelming on its own. It gives you a slightly niche use for a lot of work, and the economics don't really tend to work out. In addition to that, remember how I mentioned in my thermal thruster video that not having a secondary weapon as PYRO is pretty bad, but at the very least that weapon gives you insane mobility, so it ends up justifying its own cost.
What am I supposed to do with this gas canister then?
Well, similarly to what I said before, niche doesn't necessarily mean useless. Furthermore, I'd even argue that its cost is not as terrible as many people describe it to be. So, let me very quickly defend the Gas Passer for a little bit. While 750 may sound like a lot of damage at first, in practice it doesn't take as long to charge as you may think. The important thing to remember when using it is that the 60-second timer doesn't stop while you deal damage, so when you hit or burn someone, it technically charges at twice the speed. So, constantly flaming your targets rewards your consistency with more frequent opportunities to use your gas. Speaking of rewarding consistency, running this combo is actually a pretty good way of practicing your skill with the flamethrower. Now I have a feeling that a lot of people who still say that this weapon takes too long to recharge simply don't know how to use the flamethrower well, and they simply give up, or, what's more common, they don't even bother doing so because they think that it's basically random, takes no skill, and is very stupid. And in my opinion, that's quite unfair. Honestly, I wish somebody would make a video about this stuff. Maybe I'll do that sometime later. Alright, so back to the niche uses. This weapon can be used to scare off the enemy team without needing to get close to them. People to this day greatly underestimate Afterburn. Not only can it give you kills that you probably wouldn't be able to get with direct damage weapons, it's also very useful for denying pushes, as taking damage from fire lowers the healing rate of all mediguns by quite a bit. Speaking of burning, do you remember that you can make pyros take Afterburn damage? Because a lot of pyros you'll be fighting with it won't. Ironically, the unpopularity of this weapon makes it quite unexpected, so when you're fighting enemies that ordinarily can't take Afterburn damage, you can, as a matter of fact, score kills that ordinarily simply would not happen. Well, I say enemies, but by that I mean pretty much pyros exclusively, as Icicle Spies get 1 second of full Afterburn immunity, which doesn't matter for the ignition proc. Oh, and Darwin's Danger Shield snipers are still immune to Afterburn for some reason. Neat. However, all of these niche uses take a back seat when you combine this weapon with its eternal partner in crime. the Neon Annihilator. I couldn't believe myself how much this weapon was going to grow in my eyes just because of this simple interaction. The Neon Annihilator is the second part of this combo, and it's exactly the piece that makes it absolutely terrific. Compared to the Gas Passer, it's actually quite simple. You deal 20% less damage, but you crit sodden victims now. That's it. Those are the only two stats that actually matter. Ordinarily, the Neon Annihilator can only deal critical damage to targets that are wet, which encourages you to stay quite close to water. But the problem with that is there's only a handful of maps in TF2 that actually have water, and a weapon being useful only on one or two spots on specific maps doesn't really scream fun, especially if it encourages you to stay in that specific spot. But now with the Gas Passer, you can basically spawn a water source anywhere you want on the map. After the wonderful summer update patch, the Neon Annihilator now deals 156 damage to every victim covered in gas. This interaction alone makes the Gas Passer go from an underwhelming unlock that sometimes can support your team to being your self-sustaining partner in a devastating 1-2 punch. Forget buff and sting, get ready to coat and smash! Though before you use it extensively, we must talk about the downsides of this combo. Being able to support your team by coating enemies in the gas is quite nice. However, when you use this weapon on any target that's under focus fire, you now effectively screw yourself over, as enemies are only considered wet if they are not currently on fire. The same thing applies to your interactions with explosive classes, as getting close to them for a melee hit now puts your interaction at a dice roll. Getting close to them for a melee hit while they're sodden in gas can proc the ignition because of the self-damage from rockets, grenades, sticky bombs, and the caber. Hell, it's not just your teammates. You yourself as a pyro wield a weapon that can make it impossible to follow up on your own sodden enemy. Now your own decisions can screw you over from getting that nice clip. This also means that if you set somebody on fire, you must kill them with fire, because you probably will not be able to follow up with the gas crit afterwards. So, with all of the above said, how are you even meant to use this combo? Well, for starters, while it can feel frustrating, burning targets being unable to be soaked is actually quite good, as it actively discourages you from mistakenly throwing your gas. The nice thing about the Gas Passer is that your charge progress gets saved on death, regardless if it's full or not, so you won't be afflicted with the ever-so-present frontier justice syndrome. All of the above means that you yourself can decide when you can throw the gas at any time, but because it takes a maximum of 60 seconds to charge the meter back up, you need to throw it only when you know for sure that it will work. So, this means that this weapon requires you to have a lot of knowledge, timing, and practice to not accidentally break the combo. And if you hit the crit on a sudden target, you get a pretty good chunk of your charge back, making it way easier to get another charge of gas again. So basically, this loadout for Pyro is very skillful and actively rewards you for learning its ins and outs so you can reap its benefits. And what benefits are those again? The benefit you get is a fun and well-deserved 156 crit on anyone who you run into. The Gas Passer is no longer just a silly joke in your hands. You know what a good pyro says to you when they use this combo? I win. An enemy pyro is running at me. I win. The enemy medic wants to push onto the point? Don't think so. I win. A heavy unaware of my presence? I win! 156 damage can very comfortably secure a kill on any light class, including medics and gunslinger engineers. And the Darwin's Danger Shield sniper can no longer resist you. And if someone tries to chase you behind a corner, you will absolutely wreck them with a critical electric hit to the face. You know why I say will? Because absolutely nobody expects a pyro to just pull out 156 damage out of their pocket. Now, I'll admit, this combo is really fun, and running it made me have a lot more respect for the gas passer. It's still ultimately the worst secondary weapon at Pyro's disposal. I think we can go in a couple of directions to actually change how the gas passer works for the better. The first direction is you can make the gas canister a projectile that can deal damage on direct impact. Something like 60, 70, or hell, even 90 damage could be pretty good. The important thing about it is that it should deal damage first and coat the enemies in gas second. I obviously want the interaction between the ignition priority to stay, as it rewards patient and skilled players for engaging with it. And the second direction you can go in is you could buff. You can expand upon the gas status effect on its own, and you can make it stronger. As the description for the gas passer says, it creates a horrific visible gas cloud when thrown. But there's nothing particularly horrific about taking afterburn damage, it's business as usual. No, I want people to actively dread going into the gas cloud while it lingers on the ground for 5 straight seconds. And we can achieve that in a couple of different ways. Potentially, we could add a sort of stronger afterburn effect that can deal double damage and tick twice as fast if you get ignited after stepping into the gas. This will force you to find a friendly pyro or health kit as soon as possible, as you will not survive the full duration of this debuff unless you're soldier or heavy. But yeah, I'm just spitballing ideas out there. I certainly wouldn't want the weapon to become worse than what it was on release. Or, you know, sillier. In the end, the LandShark combo is super fun to do and worth trying if you haven't already. The nice thing about it is that it actively expands the way you would play with both of these weapons. You no longer just need to play on wet maps to use the Neon Annihilator. You can bring it on Dust Bowl, on Upward, anywhere you want really. You can treat this loadout as a side grade that trades repeatability and your movement options for a fun, alternate playstyle that can reward you in ways other weapons cannot. And if you learn how to use it, it can become very, very addicting. I hope you enjoy this type of content, and if you do, please subscribe and leave a like. Thank you for watching, my name is Gabby, and goodbye. Also, some people call this the mug root beer combo, and I think that's absolutely fantastic.